Hi, my name is Christelle and I work with North Mountain Wildlife Rescue. We are a nonprofit located right here in Winchester, Virginia, Frederick County. At North Mountain Wildlife Rescue, we have three main goals. We do wildlife rehabilitation. We take in injured and orphaned animals with the goal of getting them cured, getting them healed, raising them till they're all ready to go back out in the wild. Our second goal is that we provide long-term care to certain animals that can't be released into the wild. Now, we don't work with dogs or cats or anything like that, but we work with some native species, and we also work with some of what we call exotic animals, or animals that are not from this area, maybe from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And with those animals, because they can't be released into the wild, we give them long-term care throughout their lives. And then our third goal is education. We do educational programming with schools, scout groups, community groups. We go to festivals, things like that. And we educate people about biodiversity, all the different animals out in the environment, about ecosystems and why it's so important to preserve animal habitats. So that's us in a nutshell. This is actually the third video in our series of animals in the environment. Today we're actually going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is native species. We're going to talk about animals that live right here in Virginia. And actually, if you live on the East Coast, anywhere the states on the East Coast, some of the animals that we have out today, you're going to find they're also native in your state. So we're going to start today with one of our animals who's hiding in the back. Can you get her at all in the video?
Yeah. This is Clover.
So this is our possum Clover. Clover is a long-term resident here at our sanctuary. She cannot be released into the wild. She came into us as a baby, but because before she came into us, she was actually handled too much, and she was found by someone. She was orphaned. She was found by someone who took her home, kept her for a few weeks and tried to take care of her, but they did way too much holding and handling with her, and she got way too much used to being around people and being touched by people. So she really wasn't a good candidate for us to release out to the wild. So now Clover stays with us long term. She helps us to basically teach kids and adults about the environment and about, animals that live right here in Virginia. Now, Clover is just about under a year right now. She'll be a year pretty soon, and she is a female. And what we're sitting in today is actually her enclosure. This is where, kind of like her play area. She has an indoor area, and then when she wants to, she can come out here. We have all sorts of sticks in like that for her to climb around, and this is where she's most comfortable. So this is where we're talking about today. So what can we tell you about Clover? First thing we could tell you is that Clover is what we call a marsupial. Now, a marsupial are animals that have pouches. They're a type of mammal because they do have hair all over their body, but they have a pouch, and in that pouch, that is where their babies, when they're really young, stay. So if you've ever heard of like kangaroos and wallabies in Australia, those are marsupials. Clover, like them, has a pouch. You can't really see under her right now, but if you did, you'd see she had a little opening, and inside that opening actually would be little nipples where if she had babies, which she doesn't, they would actually latch on those nipples and drink milk from them. And that's where they'd stay for the first part of their life. As they get older, they would come out and crawl around and attach to other parts of mom as she walks around. So that's what a marsupial is. And Virginia opossums are actually pretty unique here in the United States because they are the only marsupial that you will find here in the United States of America. Now, there are other marsupials, obviously in Australia. There's a lot of them in South America, a lot of different types of possums that are related to her, but not the same species. But here she is the only marsupial. And actually, Virginia opossums are actually widespread. Even though they're called Virginia opossums, they're found in a lot of other places. They're pretty much found through much of North America, into Canada, and even down into Mexico and Central American countries. So very popular, very widespread animal. Now, opossums, like our friend Clover here, are what we call nocturnal. So they are animals that come out more at night. They'll be resting, laying low, hiding a lot during the day. And then at nighttime, where'd she go? She's hiding behind
She just got scared by your leg.
Oh, did she? Okay. So possums are going to come out a little bit more at night, and that's when possums like Clover are going to roam around and look for food. Now possums, they lay pretty low usually, so people don't always see them. But sometimes when people are out at night on a walk or they're putting the garbage out or something like that, they might spot one, but the possum's going to quickly scurry away because they're afraid of people. Now you can see she has a very thick coat. Possums, they like to keep warm in the winter. They can't migrate or anything like birds. So she has a nice thick coat. They're not an animal that really goes into deep hibernation in the winter. They'll lay low, but you will still see them sometimes. So they have this nice fur coat to keep them warm. I don't know if you can see her eyes. I'm going to try to pick her up for you guys for a second, so you can see her a bit closer. Ooh, don't want to scare you. She might open her mouth a bit as I pick her up. That's pretty typical.
Yeah, she is a bit grumpy because we woke her up from her nap because she is nocturnal.
There, give her berry. Pick her up.
Very grumpy.
Okay, so you can see her a little bit better here. You can kind of see that she has really beady eyes. Now, being a nocturnal animal, she doesn't rely on her sight that much. She relies more so on her sense of smell. You can see she has that huge nose. Where are you going, sweetie? You can see she has that huge nose, and that is actually one of her primary senses. The sense of smell is super strong, way stronger than a human sense of smell, and that's one of the ways she finds food. Then her other sense that is pretty good on a possum is their sense of hearing. If she walks back around again, she likes to kind of wander on her own, not always wanting to be held. She has these two big black ears. Their sense of hearing is pretty good, which is typical of a lot of nocturnal animals. Sense of smell, sense of hearing is often very good with a lot of nighttime animals. Now, when she goes to look for food, there's a lot of different things that she eats. Possums are what we call omnivorous, meaning they eat both plants and vegetables and fruits and berries, but they'll also eat meat. And possums have a very widespread diet. They're what we call opportunist eaters. An opportunist is basically they eat whatever they can find that's a food item. So this could include things like berries, this could include plants, this could include other smaller animals, it can include insects, worms, things like that. Also dead animals. They don't hunt per se. Possums are not very fast animals. They don't necessarily have really big teeth. Their teeth are smaller. They have claws. They're kind of sharp, but they're not huge. So they're not like a predator animal that's going to go out and chase down a prey and kill it and eat it. But if they find something that's already deceased, say a squirrel that's died in the wild or something like that, they would eat that. We call that carrion. Carrion is an animal that's already dead that can be a food source for animals like Clover here. And in that way, actually, Virginia opossums are actually very good for the environment, because they do eat carrion, which helps to clean up the environment, but also all the plants and berries and things like that that they love to eat. By eating those and then moving around, they actually help in what we call seed dispersal. And seed dispersal is getting seeds from one place to another so the plants can continue to propagate and grow and survive and thrive. So say she finds some wild strawberries in the wild. She would munch them up, and as she goes about doing her stuff that possums do, when she goes to the bathroom, then those seeds would go right through her. They would come out and they could implant somewhere else and help to grow. So that's just some basics about opossums. We enjoy having Clover here really much. You can see she has a nice enclosure. And let me see if I can get you close to her. You want to come up and say hi one more time? Oh, here she comes out front. Maybe not. She's being a little shy today.
I'll just zoom in.
I don't think she knows what to do with the camera that's on her.
Clover.
Yeah. And one of her favorite foods is berries, so I'm going to give her one here. You should see she might be interested, or maybe not. She's too distracted. Usually she would take it right out of my hand and eat it. So that's Clover. We have two other animals that are native species that we're going to talk about today. We're just going to pause for a minute because we are going to put Clover away and get the other animals set up. Thanks.
Bye.
Hi, we're back. Again, I'm Christelle, and this is my son Forrest, who also helps out at the rescue sometimes. And before we bring out some more animals, I actually want to bring up one other point about the opossum that I forgot to mention before. That's actually a really cool thing that they do. So possums have the ability to pretend that they're dead. Now, you'd think that really doesn't sound like a great ability. I mean, I can lay on the floor and close my eyes and, you know, look like I'm sleeping or pretend I'm dead, but actually possums do it in a different way than, say, you or I would do it. What possums do, if they get scared or startled, they sometimes will automatically drop down and seem like they're dead. And it's not just that they're pretending. What happens is actually their heart rate slows. circulation slows down in their body, and they almost go into like a coma type state. If you know what a coma is, it's when somebody is in a state where they can't wake up at all. So they go into a coma-like state, they don't breathe too much, they have a very low heart rate, and they actually can stay in that state for up to 6 hours, which is pretty impressive. What they also do then when they get scared and they're laying there playing possum or pretending that they're dead is they actually secrete a very noxious smelling secretion that smells really bad and rotten. So this is all to discourage a predator. So if a predator comes by, they get startled, they fall over, they seem like they're dead, they secrete that really, really bad odor, and the predator's like, ooh, that's something that's rotten. I don't want to eat that because it'll make me sick. So just kind of a really, really cool defense mechanism that opossums have. So if you ever see a possum and it's laying on its side and you think it's dead, it may not actually be. It may just be in that state where it seems like it's dead. So kind of a neat thing that they do. So we're back. We have 2 other animals we're going to talk about. First one I'm going to bring out is one that's found commonly throughout the eastern part of the United States.
Another turtle.
Another turtle. We love our turtles here at North Mountain. So Forrest, can you tell them what type of turtle this is?
This turtle here, she is an eastern box turtle.
Right. So this is an eastern box turtle. We call her Mama because when she came to us a couple years ago, she actually came to us with 6 babies. So she was kept by someone as a pet for 20 years, and they actually had more than 1 box turtle. They had a male and a female in an enclosure together, and what happened is that the female got pregnant and she ended up laying a bunch of eggs. So she ended up having 6 babies that survived from those eggs. So Mama here is over 20 years old, and she was found, well actually she was bought. She was a little baby, and someone had been selling her basically just on the streets, not at any store or anything like that. And the person who bought her actually bought her because he felt sorry for her. He felt sorry that she was just being sold by someone who didn't seem to care about her and it wasn't keeping her in a good condition. So the person bought her and took her home and made a nice outdoor enclosure for her and kept her as a pet for 20 years. And then the person got older and wasn't able to keep her anymore. So they actually brought her into us, and we take care of Mama now. So she is an eastern box turtle. Eastern box turtles are one of about 6 species of box turtles that you find here in the United States. Now, Forrest, what do turtles do when they get scared?
Well, turtles, they hide in their shell, and the cool thing about eastern box turtles is that on their belly they have like this thing where they can like close their shell.
Yeah, so when turtles get scared, they tend to suck into their shell. That's their primary defense, is to hide, because turtles don't move very fast, do they?
No.
No. So they'll try to run away, or they'll just kind of suck into their shell, because this hard shell, which is actually, it's actually a layer of bone in the shell. There's like a big, thick bone, and on top of that, there's some nerve endings and blood vessels, and then there's what we call scutes on top of it. And scutes are basically a modified type of scales, because it is a reptile, so it has scales all over its body. They're modified, larger scales that serve as a protector outer covering. So she's got the big shell on the back, and then underneath, I'm going to hold her like this. You'll see she has an undershell. We call this a plastron. And you'll see that there's a line right across here. She's not too thrilled with me for doing this, so we won't keep her here long. There's a line, and what do we call that, Forrest? Do you remember what that's called? Kind of like you have on a door. What makes a door open and close?
No. Wait.
It's okay. It's what we call a hinge. So think about a door, it's on hinges so it can open and close. Well, that's what that line underneath her shell helps her to do. It's a hinge so that when she gets scared, she sucks in her shell, pulls in her hands and her feet and her legs. They're all legs, actually. Don't know why I said hands. So she pulls them all in, and she'll use this hinge to bring the bottom part of her shell up to meet with the top shell.
I said that.
So it closes like a box.
I said that.
And that's how they get the name box turtle. So that's what she does when she's scared. Now, box turtles are pretty common in Virginia. You might see them walking around in your yard or around the woods. They tend to like forested areas, sometimes big grassy fields they like and they're found in. And they're actually perfectly adapted to living there, because you'll see this coloring on her shells. Now, most box turtles are kind of a brownish type color, And then on the back shell here that we call the carapace, that's what the top shell is called, it has usually coloring on it, different splattered pattern that are usually yellow or orangish. Now, what do we call when an animal blends in their environment? What do we call it?
Camouflage.
So camouflage. And our box turtle here is perfectly camouflaged because think about it, if she was living on the forest floor or in a big grassy area, she would blend in really well. What is the best place for her to blend in with?
Maybe in some like leaves or
Yes.
something.
So these
or
colors
sticks.
actually are perfect. Box turtles sometimes like to hide under the leaf litter that's on the ground, and it helps them to blend right in. So hopefully a predator that is looking for dinner will just walk right by and not see the box turtle there. Now, box turtles actually can play a very important role in the environment. They are very long-lived species. They can live up to 50, 75 years. There's actually one record of a box turtle that has lived up to about 100 years now. And but with that, they mature very slowly. So from when they're born and they're just little hatchlings because they come out of an egg, we call it what's called oviparous, which is animals that are born from eggs. And they're hatched out of their eggs. They're really small and they grow fairly slowly over the next several years. It actually takes about 10 to 12 years for a box turtle to reach maturity, which what we call like adulthood for a box turtle. And then again, they can live a long life. So, but they play important roles in the environment. One of the things they are is they're an important food source for some other animals that live in the environment. Some animals, not many, but some can get through the shell. But also those eggs that turtles lay, all turtles lay eggs. That's true for a lot of reptiles actually, that they're egg layers. Those eggs are actually also an important food source for other animals in the environment. So things like raccoons, foxes, snakes, they sometimes find the turtle nest and eat the eggs, which seems like sad for us because we don't want to see baby turtles eaten. But it's actually part of the whole food chain that's out there. So, and it's an important source of food. The other important role they play is actually similar to what I talked about with the possums, is because like possums, box turtles are what we call omnivorous. And what does it mean again when we say omnivorous, Forrest?
When they hatch from eggs.
No, that's oviparous.
No.
Omnivorous is about what they eat.
Yeah. When it eats plants and meat.
Right. So omnivorous is an animal that eats both plants and meat. Like the possum, they're kind of opportunistic eaters. So they eat what they can find that they're able to digest. So the box turtle out in the wild might eat a worm or some other kind of bug. Or if it finds carrion, which is again is a dead animal, it might eat off the carrion. But most of their diet is more so vegetable matters, like plants, vegetables, fruits, berries, things like that. So similar to the possum, when it eats plants or berries, it can then, as it moves about its environment, it can then redistribute the seeds from those plants throughout the environment. And again, that helps the ecosystem to propagate and the plants to continue to grow and spread. So important role in the environment. Now, there are a couple issues here with box turtles in North America where their numbers are down in a lot of states. They do have some protections. It's from state to state. They're not considered endangered, but there is a limit on how many can be taken out of the wild here in Virginia. So, and that is one of the biggest problems, is that a lot of people love turtles. We think they're cute. They are really cool, neat animals, but it's not okay to take one out of the wild and make it a pet. And that's what happened with Mama. Someone took her out of the wild and then sold her to somebody else. And that's not good because that makes their numbers go down. So a lot of people think it would be neat to have a turtle as a pet, but like I said, they can live up to like 75 years, so they're not a good pet because you're going to be taking care of it forever and it may outlive you. And turtles actually don't do that very much when they're in captivity. They just kind of eat, move around a little bit, and poop. That's pretty much what they do all day. They don't want to cuddle, they don't want to play or anything like that. Now you can see she's very active because I'm holding her up. I'm holding her on her bottom shell here to keep her supported and making sure she's nice and sturdy, but she's still up in the air, so she's moving her arms around a bit like, how do I get out of here, basically. So we mentioned that she eats both plants and animals. Again, helps to clean up the environment by eating some of those dead things, or to keep the insect populations down by eating some bugs and worms and things like that. Another problem with box turtles while their numbers are down is a lot of them get hit by cars. And many people have seen box turtles while they're driving around on the road. They may see a box turtle trying to cross the road, and they're not very fast. So if drivers don't see them, they may accidentally hit them. So that's something to keep an eye on when you're out there driving. You know, if you see a turtle, slow down, let the turtle cross, or maybe you can even, if you have your parent with you, your parent can go and move the box turtle off the road. That could help them so they don't get hit. And again, box turtles don't really understand that roads are bad. They are mostly instinctual animals, and they tend to, if they want to go in that direction, they're going to go. They're pretty stubborn that way. So if they want to cross over there and to get to that nice wooded area over there, they're going to want to cross over there, even if it's crossing a street or a parking lot or something like that. They don't care. They'll just kind of keep going in that direction. So if someone actually moves a turtle off the road, the only thing we ask is that you move it in the direction it was going in. Because again, they're stubborn. If you find a turtle like Mommy here on the road and she's going one way, and you pick her up and you put her on the opposite side of the road where she was going, it's actually not very good for her, because there's a good chance she's just going to turn around and walk right across that road again, because again, she wanted to be over there. So if you do take them off the road, put them in the direction that they were going in.
Unless it's like, just put it on the better side, the side that looks better, if it's just facing down the middle of the road.
Yeah, that's another thing.
That
happened to us once. We found one, it was perfectly in the middle of the road, and it was just facing down the road and not facing in either direction. So in that case, we actually took our best guess and put her in what we thought looked like the safer, more wooded side, because we figured maybe she was heading over to that. So anyways, so that's our box turtle today. Can you think of anything else we want to say about her?
She's really adorable, like all turtles.
Yeah, like all turtles, she's just a really, really cool specimen. And we do take her here. She can't be released into the wild, so we take care of her here. There is rules about if an animal has not been in the wild, that they have to be kept in captivity for the rest of their life if it's been a certain amount of time. Here in Virginia, it's 6 months. So if a turtle is taken out of their environment and they've been out of the environment for 6 months, legally you cannot place them back into the wild. And there's a couple reasons for that. First of all, it's not always good for the turtle, especially ones that have been in captivity for years, or like in the case of Mama, where she's been in captivity since she was a baby, because they tend to imprint on their environments and kind of stay in the same area their whole life. And if you take her from one environment to another, they don't always do very well. The other reason is because in captivity, they could pick up things like bacteria or germs that are not native to this environment and not native to the ecosystems here, and then get something in captivity. They pick up a germ or a bacteria, they take it out, and that could spread it out into the wild, which is not good for all the other animals that live in the wild. So that's our box turtle. I'm going to put her away, and we have one more animal we're going to talk about today. Okay, final animal we're going to talk about today is something we call a corn snake. Now, corn snakes are native to Virginia, of course. They're not as common as some snakes, but they are around. Now, they're actually fairly common throughout the United States. We usually find them in the southeast part of the country and also into the central part of the country. And I think they have them as far north as New Jersey. I think there's some populations found in the state of New Jersey. So now corn snake is a funny name, right, Forrest?
Yeah.
I mean, do snakes eat corn?
No.
No, what do they eat?
Rats.
Rodents. Their main diet is rodents. Sometimes they eat some frogs, or they might eat insects when they're really small, or eggs if they find them, smaller birds. But their main diet is actually rodents. That's kind of what they're infamous for. So the name corn snake, actually, we think there's two reasons why they were called corn snakes. One is because they're found a lot on farms. Farmers a lot of times that will find these near grain stores and things like that, because what likes to eat grain? Not the snakes. Rodents. So around like grain stores and things like that, there's a lot of mice that come to eat the grain, and the corn snakes actually like to eat the mice. So they've learned to hang around farms and grain stores and things like that, because there's a lot of food supply there for them. So in that sense, they're actually really helpful to people, because they keep down the rodent populations. They keep them from eating too much grain, and also rodents can carry diseases, things like that. So corn snakes are actually very, very beneficial, as are a lot of snakes, to not just the environments they live in, but to humans as well. So one of the reasons we think they're called corn snakes is because they're found around like corn stores and farms and things like that. The other reason we suspect that they were originally named corn snakes is because of this pattern on the underside of their belly here, which goes all the way down. You'll see on the back part of this snake's body, it is kind of orangish brownish, which is typical coloring for corn snakes. The underside's very different. It's light colored and it has kind of a speckled pattern. And some people think that pattern kind of looks like variated corn, or what we sometimes call Indian corn, which is the multicolored one. So that is possibly another reason why they were named corn snakes. So we mentioned that they're very, very good for both environment and humans. So they're helpful snakes because they like rodents. They are found on farms a lot, and they're also found sometimes around people's houses and things like that. But they're pretty docile snakes compared to many species. They tend to be very calm and docile. Now this one was bred and raised in captivity. It's never lived out in the wild. So he's very used to being handled. But corn snakes have become very popular as pets. They're one of the most popular pet snakes because of that docile temperament. Many people do have them as pets, although we do again encourage, don't ever take an animal out of the wild. If you're ever interested in, a snake or something like that as a pet, do your research and find a good breeder or a place that, breeds them in captivity so they don't take them out of the wild. So you'll notice she's flicking her tongue. So we talked about this in one of our previous videos, but in case some people didn't see it, why do snakes flick out their tongue?
They flick their tongue to like smell.
Yeah, snakes don't have the best eyes. I don't know if you can see. I'll bring her a little closer. If I get her face. She has beady little eyes. So they don't really see as well as some animals. It's not their primary sense. Do the snakes have ears?
No.
No, they don't have ears either. So their sense of smell is actually one of their primary sense. So when they're sticking out their tongue, they're actually taking the air and taking it into their mouth and smelling it on the inside of the mouth, because they actually have an organ on the inside of their mouth that helps them to smell things. So they have a very strong sense of smell, and that is one of the primary ways they find their food. I mentioned they don't have ears, but they can sense vibrations. So while they can't hear sound the way we do, they do have kind of like an inner ear structure that helps them to sense the vibrations of what's going on around them. And that's another way they hunt, or another way they hide from predators, because they want to know if there's a predator coming. And snakes, even though, what kind of animal are they? Are they meat eaters, vegetable eaters? What did we say? Because with the letter C, meat, carnivores. They are carnivores, but they are also sometimes end up as somebody else's dinner. Especially a corn snake like this, they're not that big. There's plenty of predators that are out in the environment that would eat a corn snake as a meal. Larger snakes sometimes will eat smaller snakes. Things like hawks and owls will sometimes hunt snakes. And also, when the snakes are smaller and they're younger, particularly things like raccoons or something like that might eat one of them. So there's plenty predators out there in the wild for snakes also. Oops, let me get him over here. So now we said the name is corn snake. They are so sometimes are referred to as red rat snakes because they are in the rat snake family. So now when we think of rat snakes, there's something in Virginia called the black rat snake, or what we call the eastern rat snake is the actual official name. So eastern rat snakes are black with kind of like a whitish underside, but they're probably one of the most common snakes you find here in Virginia, and they're usually a little bit larger than corn snakes they can get. And so when we think of those eastern rat, the black rat snakes, we don't really think of them as being similar to a corn snake, but they're actually in the same family because corn snakes are rat snakes, basically. They're just a different coloring of rat snakes, so they're pretty closely related. Now, can you think of anything else we want to tell them about our corn snake here?
You want to say anything, buddy?
He's just going to keep flicking out his tongue. He's very curious. You can see he's a very active snake. He likes to be on the move. He likes to see what's going on in the environment around him, and he's constantly flicking his tongue just to, again, sense what's going on around him, smell what's going on.
He's happy about being on YouTube.
He's a YouTube star now. So Okay, I think that's all we're going to talk about today with our animals. We hope you enjoyed our video today. We hope you learned something. Again, today's topic was native species, so we're talking about different species that live here in Virginia. We're also doing a series on our Facebook page this week on native species, so if you check out our Facebook for North Mountain Wildlife Rescue, every day we're going to be posting about a different native species that lives here in Virginia, some information and pictures, but they're not just going to be any native species, they're actually going to be native species that are classified as endangered or threatened, because we do have several species of animals here in Virginia that would be considered endangered, threatened, vulnerable, something along those lines. So check that out on our Facebook page. Also, if you want to check out our webpage, we have all of our videos on our website, www.northmountain.org. So links to all of our videos. We also have some other activities that go with the videos, like questionnaires and coloring sheets, things like that. And just general information if you want to learn about our organization and the things that we do.
And one other thing, we also have, every day we post a close-up picture of one of our animals here, and you guys have to try to guess what it is.
Yes, another fun thing we're doing on our website is we take a picture of an animal, we do one body part close up, so it's hard to tell what the animal is, and we put it on our Facebook page to see if people can guess, see if anybody gets it right.
And some
as to what
guesses
animal
are
it is.
really crazy.
Yeah. So thank you for watching our video. We hope you enjoyed meeting all of our animals. We hope you learned something, and we are going to be doing another video again soon. The 4th video in our series, we're probably going to focus on animal classification and talk about the difference between mammals, reptiles, amphibians, birds, and invertebrates. So have a good day. We'll see you soon.
Don't get sick.
Bye-bye.